Hello and welcome to this OpenTX tip. Now this is all part of the OpenTX mixing school. If you are new to OpenTX and don't understand how it all works, this probably isn't the place to start. I'll put a link here to go and watch the OpenTX mix school. It starts from very simple principles with OpenTX and moves through some quite complicated stuff. Now we are going to get in the weeds a little bit with this, but this is for a gentleman called Gary. I've helped Gary out before, and Gary's got in touch again, and he is trying to control radio controlled heavy machinery, things like excavators, with his Taranis radio. Now he's managed to get all the servos plugged into the receiver, which is great, but what he really wants to be able to do is something like use the throttle, which isn't a sprung control, and actually have several things controlled by that throttle, and at the flick of a switch choose between them. So it might be the arm moving backwards and forwards, left, right, up or down. It might be extending the arm or bringing it in. It might be raising or lowering the bucket. It could be lots of different things. Now this is actually a really interesting question, because not only does it apply to Gary with his radio controlled heavy machinery, it also demonstrates that yet again, here's another question that I've been asked that OpenTX can do that I've not found other radios that can. And so far, fingers crossed, I've never been asked to figure something out that I haven't yet been able to get OpenTX to do. One last caveat before we get into it. There are always at least one or two ways to do everything in OpenTX. This just happens to be the way that I figured it out. Okay, enough of that. Let me kind of show you the couple of issues that you get into with this stuff. So here I've got a model set up, and I've got different outputs selected. Now the way I've actually switching between them, I could switch between them by just selecting a specific switch position, but you know what, I thought we'll use good old flight modes. So the flight modes are selected by the SA switch moving through each for the different ones, and that's how in the mixes I've got the names appearing here, because that's the names of the flight modes. But what happens is, and let me just move things around so it's all on the screen with me in the bottom, hopefully you can see that. So the throttle is controlling channel 3 by default. Channel 3 is the servo connected to the arm in this example. If I move SA into the middle position, then it flicks into channel 6, which is for the bucket, and then in the top position it moves to channel 8. Okay, not really okay, because look what's happening. If I put the auxiliary at the very top position and then flick back to the middle position, then that value isn't stored. Now that's not very useful if you're controlling a model. However, the other problem that you've got is that if I have the control in the top position, I'm holding it, and I flick between each of them in turn, it will immediately push that servo into that position, which isn't going to be ideal. So although we can do simple things like actually change and move an output to different servos with a flick of a switch or by using flight modes, that's not the answer for Gary. So let me show you the next iteration of this. So here, what I've done, I've got rid of the whole flight modes thing. We're not using those for this. That just potentially complicates everything. What we need is a way to store the position of the throttle as we go for each of the controls, each of the outputs. And as you've probably seen here, if you watch any of my videos, you'll have an idea what I'm doing. What I'm actually doing is with the switch in each of the three positions, the same switch we've just used, what it's actually doing is it is storing the position of the throttle in 3 global variables. And those global variables are the ones that we're using in the mixer for the output. Now what this means is that those values stay locked. So let me show you how that works. So here we are again, same kind of condition. Let's put SA at the back. So we've got the throttle in the low position. Say we want to move the arm to that position. That's great. Flick it into the middle. See what's happening this time. Channel 3 is staying where it was. Maybe we want to extend the arm to that position, put it in the top position, and maybe this is the bucket. We'll rotate the bucket and then leave it back there. Well, this is a lot better, isn't it? Because the values are being stored. However, if I move SA back with it in the back position, it goes bang, bang, and pulls them all down because it's reading them instantly. So it's not quite what I'm sure Gary's after, but it's getting a lot closer. So what we really need is a way that we tell the radio, actually, I want to control this channel now and move the control into the specific position. So what we'll do then is, let me show you the last idea. So rather than the position of the output being directly controlled from the control of the throttle, in this case with the position of a switch, we'll also add another switch in along with that one. The momentary switch is the one I'm using to kind of say, right, okay, I want this output to be active. And what this will allow us to do, it looks very similar, is in SA in the back position, we can move the throttle. Actually doesn't move anything at the moment. But if we have SA in the back position, we enable the output. That will allow us to move the control into where we need it to. And then we can move it into the next position, enable the output, and then move it to where we want it. And then finally, we can move it into the last position and enable the output and then move it into there. Now with the output or SH in the back position now, so it's not enabled, I can move this around and I'm not destroying the position of the other controls. What I can do is I can put SA and say, actually, no, it's the middle one that I need to move. Let me put SH there and let me just fine tune that. Now the way this is working is it's in logical switches, and what I'm doing is I'm using the AND function to pair the SA switch position in the back, middle and forward to the momentary switch pulled forward position. And what you might see, logical switch 1 and 2 and 3, watch what happens here. So with SA in the back position, SH in the back position, watch what logical switches are doing. Logical switches 0, 1, 0, 2 and 0, 3 up here. So watch. SH comes on, there's logical switch 1 is active. As it goes into the 3 positions, there we are, we're actually enabling the logical switches. So I've just tied those 2 switches together and I can use those logical switches just like I would normally. So rather now in the special functions, these being activated by the SA switch in its own position, it's been activated by these logical conditions or these logical switches, which is actually these 2 switches together. So that gives me kind of an extra safety switch that when it's engaged with SH, when you're holding it, it allows you to move everything. And apart from that, the mixes are very, very similar. The max output is global variable 1. Everything's the same, but the way it's working is that global variable 1 is only being changed when logical switch 1 is turned on, and logical switch is when SA is in the back position and SH is in the front position. Now there is one final challenge with this, is that, and you probably spotted it, let me turn the bits on here. So at the moment SA is in the back position, SH is turned off. As I move things around, it might be that I want to have my arm almost fully extended and I store that position. Then I want to have the next servo in that position and I go like that. And then I think, oh no, I need to go back to the arm. When I go back to here, I have to try and eyeball roughly where the control was before I re-enable it, and then I can move it around again. Because if I disable the output and then had it in a completely different position and then re-enabled the output for that, watch happens on channel 3. It'll immediately jump down, which isn't really what you want to do. But there's probably a way to do that. I'm going to not answer it in this video. I'm interested in the comments below if you can figure out how to do that. Bearing in mind we are using the global variables, and bearing in mind that there are abilities in the mixer to add delays and to slow down the movement, which ways could you think of to help protect against very quick jerky movements on a radio controlled vehicle if you actually re-enabled one of the outputs with the servo at a dramatically different position? Thank you for watching my video and watching right to the very end. If you want to find out what I'm currently working on, you can follow me on social media by searching for Painless360 in the usual places. If you'd like to become part of the inner circle, then you can become a Patreon. Details are in the description and you get lots of additional benefits. Check out the playlist section on the channel too. I organise all of my videos into playlists, and it's called something like Introduction to or for Beginners. All of the content is aimed so that you can start at the very beginning, and it teaches you that subject, starting with simple principles and moving up to teach you everything you need to know.